Colorado is making it tougher for police to take your stuff. There's a new investigation into Longmont's warrantless searches of low-income homes. The richest Denver native you've never heard of grants us his first American TV interview. CDOT explains the true cost of the I-25 shutdown. And it's too hot for city pools to be broken, Denver. Too hot. Next. Police can seize your money or property if they think you've committed a crime. It's when you aren't convicted of the crime, but they still keep your stuff, that civil asset forfeiture ends up in the news. Governor Hickenlooper today signed a civil forfeiture reform bill. It had wide bipartisan support, but strong opposition from law enforcement and from cities who say that it helps them fight crime. This law will provide transparency on what is being taken from people and why, and it pushes police to use Colorado's civil forfeiture system, which has tougher rules than the federal version. Two stories to update you on that have received a lot of attention throughout the day. There is not much new in the last few hours on the investigation into the killing of 10-year-old Kaya Campbell in Adams County. Kaya was the subject of an Amber Alert until someone in Thornton found her body last night. The coroner is only saying that she was killed. Her death was not an accident or from natural causes. An ICE agent shot a guy today who's trying to get away from a traffic stop off Santa Fe in West Denver. The agent stopped a pickup driven by someone they were looking for. He took off running, and he was shot by that agent and is currently in the hospital. Longmont is changing its handling of the warrantless searches of low-income houses from essentially a nothing to see here, folks, approach to now calling for an outside investigation. The Housing Authority, of course, cheerfully told us that those searches were great training for the drug dogs, and what are people hiding anyway, am I right? And police originally vowed to keep doing the searches and then backed off, all the while insisting that they were constitutional. Well, now it looks like Longmont wants another police agency to come in and vouch for that. The notices to tenants at the suites in Longmont made no mention that they were being asked to give up a constitutional right. It said management would enter apartments for inspections. That's totally legal and it's in the lease. And also that police and a drug dog might come along. That's not in the lease, and it's not legal unless the tenant agrees to waive their Fourth Amendment right and consent to the warrantless search. It's not happening anymore, not because it's constitutionally questionable, but because we made it public knowledge.
I refused to let the cops in, but one of the owners said I had to.
And that claim, that one by Tamika McClure this week, adds a whole new level of issues for Longmont.
I had to step outside while they were searching with the canine. The cop just said it's a dog in training.
They were quite careful in their approach. We made it quite clear that we needed permission to go in.
And we were clear in our questions to Tamika. Did management, did police ever say that she had the constitutional right to refuse the police search?
No, they didn't say that, but I told them I didn't want them in here.
Right now, Longmont's looking for a police agency from outside Boulder County to do a review of this. City Council put out a statement in support of the police, but didn't mention the Housing Authority. A spokesman said they didn't talk about the Housing Authority because it's not a city entity, which is kind of funny because the head of the Housing Authority says she won't answer my questions anymore because they're a city entity. So, you know, stay consistent, Longmont. I think we can all agree. When it's 90 degrees out, water should be filling a swimming pool and not being drained from it. And the reaction of young Lily Becker, that speaks for all the kids. Just pure longing right there. 3 of Denver's 29 city pools have some maintenance issues. Congress Park Pool and Berkeley Pool, right across from Lakeside, are closed this weekend. There's a resurfacing and a paint delay at Berkeley. La Alma at 11th and Osage is partially open. The 60-year-old Congress Park Pool needs at least one more week to fix a leak that they just discovered when the pool was filled.
I was thinking why it was closed and why people were walking in when it was closed. Yeah, and they should have opened it because it's hot. Nobody gets to do anything.
We had filled the pool and we had to drain it because we found that we had some valves that we actually had to have fabricated out of state to actually replace. We had some maintenance issues with the pool.
Denver's hoping to have Congress Park Pool open next weekend. It takes 500,000 gallons and 4 days to fill. 4 hot, long days. But they might be able to cut that in half if they can work out a deal for some fire hydrant water. Gross, you say? No, no. Denver Water says it would be properly disinfected and tested.
Colorado's a hot destination for migration. First, people were getting all upset about transplant people moving in. This story is about a different kind of transplant, geese. We've told you in the past about geese mucking up city parks. The city's been trying to deal with those problems using that funky robot called the Goosenator to scare them away. They also oil the eggs so they won't hatch. But a group of Denver neighbors says that isn't working, and they want the city to come up with a different solution to manage the population. About 500 of them have signed a petition, including Steve Spurn.
And we're not talking about necessarily harming these birds. We're talking about finding ways to encourage them to go away.
Wildlife officials say the resident goose population has grown in the Front Range from 5,000 in 2000 to 20,000 today, even more when the birds are migrating. During a busy migration season, Wash Park can see 5,000 to 6,000 geese a day. The city says it's doing all it can to try to convince the birds to leave, but it's tough. City parks offer food, water, shelter, no natural predators. So really, we've created a habitat for geese.
People love the habitat that we have created for people, and the wildlife have adjusted to it. They have adapted to the habitat that we've created, and they're staying here. So do we get rid of the habitat? You know, that's a question.
Now, some cities do take drastic measures. Some have gotten permission to kill geese and give the meat to homeless shelters for food. Not kidding, this actually happened in Oregon. Denver Parks and Rec says that hasn't been an option in Colorado. But it's a situation, Kyle, where you've got a perfect habitat that's built for people that geese just love. And so they've tried to replace some of the natural grass with actually natural grass and not the green stuff that people tend to like, and then people get upset about that. So.
Yeah, if they would just simply stop using the parks as defecation stations, we would be fine.
Absolutely.
There'd be no issue at all. Yeah. All right, Stevie and the TV, thank you. Remember the sign, or the signs that we showed you last week at the intersection of 6th and Federal? On the right, there's a sign for East US 6 that points left. On the left, there's a sign for East US 6 that points right. They both cannot be true. Same thing with the signs for I-25. So we called up CDOT, and you know, to their credit, CDOT got right on this and said, don't worry, we'll send a crew out to fix it. You know, we're a skeptical sort around here, so we decided to go out there and check it out. And indeed, CDOT fixed the issue. Crew member went and turned around the sign on the left, so now it all makes perfect sense. Apparently, that sign had gotten flipped around 180 degrees. It was facing the wrong way, which led drivers to have to make the choice which sign to follow. Next, we'll continue fixing the little stuff so it doesn't cause big problems for you. Send what you've seen to our email, next@9news.com, or tweet to us with the hashtag #HeyNext. Right between Michael Jordan and Oprah Winfrey on the list of the wealthiest African Americans is a man who originally is from Denver. For years, he's kept a low profile while building a massive investment firm. Before he delivered the commencement address at the University of Denver this afternoon, Robert Smith sat down for his first U.S. TV interview ever with our own Nelson Garcia.
Growing up in and around East High School, he learned the value of persistence that still serves him today.
So when you have parents who are teachers, you learn to be relentless in your pursuit of excellence in whatever craft it is that you're interested in.
Robert Smith manages software investments through a company he started called Vista Equity Partners, leaving a successful job at Wall Street giant Goldman Sachs. His colleagues thought he was crazy.
I looked at it and I said, well, how am I going to feel, 15, 20 years from now if I don't take this risk and go try this?
His gamble paid off big time into a $30 billion company, making the illustrious Forbes list as the second richest African American in the U.S., worth $2.5 billion, behind only Oprah Winfrey.
So it's important for these young African American men to understand there are people like Robert Smith out there who actually can, be learned in the sciences and in engineering and in finance.
Smith is now the first black chairman of Carnegie Hall, believing music is a part of life and success.
And a big part of my thrust is to drive music education back into the classrooms and into the schools.
He is delivering the commencement address at the University of Denver graduate ceremony with his message of persistence.
To pick a purpose and to be dogged in the pursuit of that purpose.
Lessons that led him to success.
So at the end of the day, I'm really just a quiet engineer, just trying to create these elegant solutions to the complex problems that we face.
Lessons that he learned in and around East High School.
Denver will always be my home.
For Next, I'm Nelson Garcia.
We've been trying to sit down with Mr. Smith for some time now. His father, graduated from DU as well as East High. He has roots in Colorado, but nowadays he's based in Austin, Texas. He runs a summer camp, though, in Colorado's mountains for minority kids, as well as a camp for wounded veterans called Lincoln Hills. He told us he just wants everyone to experience what Colorado is all about. A What Do You Say road trip to the plains in search of a town's proper pronunciation. We go inside the I-25 shutdown as CDOT tells us the true cost. When an interstate like that is closed, is there a meter running in your head?
It's immediately what we're thinking.
And the Coloradan climbing Everest, who may have achieved a first. Next. Just going to give you a short forecast tonight. Listen, I'm no meteorologist, but I can tell you that it is hot outside and due to get hotter through the weekend. Maybe there will be a cool breeze blowing on your arms and legs and so forth. Sun icons aplenty in the forecast. No rain in sight. All right, let's play. What do you say? This time we head to the southeastern part of Colorado to a town on the Arkansas River, about an hour southeast of Pueblo, home to Otero Junior College. Pam Eathorpe asked next, what's the real pronunciation? So we called up the Chamber of Commerce, talked to a very nice office manager who's lived there her whole life.
La Junta Chamber of Commerce, this is Angela. How can I help you? The proper way to pronounce La Junta is actually La Junta, but we'll settle for La Junta. And it just means the junction in Spanish. There's a little bit of rolling of the tongue that has to happen, and some people just can't do that. We completely understand, so we'll settle for La Junta.
And there you go. As always, we are looking for the pronunciation that is accepted by the locals today. And we know that in Colorado that doesn't always mean that it falls in line with the original pronunciation. So if you have a name of a city, a town, a lake, a road, anything that you've wondered about, send it our way. We will get to the bottom of it. Email next@9news.com or use the hashtag HeyNext. That recent tanker crash on I-25 and the fire that shut down the interstate for hours, it started a clock in the heads of CDOT leaders. They knew the cost, not the cost to repair the road surface, the cost to all of us Coloradans. They knew that it was going to be in the millions of dollars. CDOT's number 2 man was there when the tanker crashed on I-25. He was there for part of the evening hours, and he told us the pressure was real.
And we can calculate sort of in general terms what the delay costs are for delay. Like an individual incident on a highway like I-25 costs about $20,000 to $25,000 just in delay cost for the users. So if we're shutting down the entire highway for a lengthy period of time, we're into the millions of dollars in delay cost if it's extended. So there's an economic impact cost to the region. People can't get to meetings, they can't get to their flights. Work is being delayed because you can't get there. That has an economic impact cost, as well as the additional fuel costs for being stuck in traffic. That's what drove us to get this road open by 5 o'clock the next morning, come hell or high water. That was the mission. That's what we were going to do.
E470, you guys directed traffic there, told people that you'd cover the tolls. So now the discussion begins with the authority that runs that highway about who's going to cover the tolls. There isn't some kind of deal where the state can just say, hey, it was an emergency, we're going to have people take that road for free. Doesn't work like that?
It doesn't work like that, but in actuality it does. And we're going to sit down with them and see what's the reasonable cost for that period of time. And I'm sure we'll come to a reasonable solution that is the right thing for the taxpayer.
Each step up Everest is in defiance of what weighs this Coloradan down.
I want people to realize that, there's a lot of excuses you can make in your life to not chase your dreams. If you believe in it, you can actually make it happen.
And our weekly reminder that the litany of tragedy on the evening news isn't most people's day-to-day. Your good news, next. A Coloradan back from climbing Everest carries with him a unique distinction. Chris Bombardier is believed to be the first person with severe hemophilia to ever summit Everest.
For every child who has been told no due to their bleeding disorder, for every patient wondering when his next dose of life-saving clotting factor will be, for every family who has plans derailed by hemophilia, for all of us overcoming the impossible, this mountain is for you. I'm Chris Bombardier, and I just summited Mount Everest. Everest has this it's a special mountain, you know. It's the highest mountain in the world. There's so much history that is involved with the mountain. I've been dreaming about climbing it for so many years. To actually like say that you're gonna climb it, I don't think it felt real until we're actually standing at base camp, looking at the mountain, looking at the ice fall. So I have a severe hemophilia B, which is a genetic bleeding disorder. Basically, my body doesn't produce a protein called factor 9 that helps your blood clot. So that can lead to like a lot of internal bleeding in muscles and joints and stuff if not treated. Treatment is through IV medication, so that's never fun, and you still get breakthrough bleeding. And then on the mountain, I treated more often. I did it about every 3 or 4 days on Everest, just because it's such a grueling trip and a hard trip that I wanted to be more protected while I climbed. It's the most beautiful place I've ever been, and the most scary place I've ever been. You know, you're going over these ladders and you can see down into crevasses that you can't actually see the bottom of, and you're walking along and there's this huge ice rack that looks like it's gonna tip over on you. And I actually sat down right before the South Summit and I was like, I can't do it. I think that's too much. The Sherpa I was climbing with, named Tashi, he came up to me and he said, "You can make it." He's like, "You're here for a mission. You're here for a reason. You have a purpose. You can do this." He's like, "We'll do it together." We started going, you know, traversing towards the summit, and all of a sudden I saw my guide Ryan and the rest of our team standing, and I turned to Tashi and I said, "Is that the summit?" And he said, "Yes, that's the summit." And I just gave him like the biggest hug, and I started crying. And I want people to realize that like there's a lot of excuses you can make in your life to not chase your dreams. You know, whether it's hemophilia or it's something else, you know, if you believe in it, you can actually make it happen, which is pretty cool.
Sun's shining, people are walking around, everyone seems happy. You know, what's not to love? It's all good.
Yeah, I just got an apartment. I got another job, so I'm probably gonna quit my other one.
The good news is I'm here to see my daughter. That's great news, actually.
Kim and I are in town for a friend's wedding. A good friend of mine's getting married, so we're here to celebrate.
I always have good news. I am a 17-year cancer survivor.
If you're positive now, things can be positive in the future. If you're negative, you're going to breed negativity. It's just kind of contagious.
It's almost like a new beginning. You know, you start loving life a little bit more. You start wanting to enjoy life a little bit more. Love life. Life is good. It's wonderful.
You had it.
Life is good. Received a few dozen concerned emails and tweets tonight from folks who are worried that I might be wearing shorts, and that is extremely unprofessional. I assure you I am not. They're skin tone pants. It's 90 degrees out, Colorado. You stay cool, and I'll see you next time.